we are giving away just enough free stuff to keep people wanting to come back, to keep people relying on us because we are positioning ourselves as that expert.
Welcome back to Duo On Air. I'm Abby.
And I'm Courtney.
And we're the ex-agency turned entrepreneurial team that puts the Duo in Duo Collective. Our boutique organic marketing agency specializes in SEO, social media strategy, and branding.
We're an everyday pair of business besties / marketing experts obsessed with helping our community learn more about what it takes to run a business.
Which is why on Duo On Air, we're not holding anything back. We're giving you all the info we know about how to grow your business organically so you can be the confident CEO you were made to be.
And how to navigate life as a small business owner.
Whether it's on your own or with your best friend by your side, so grab your coffee
or your mimosa, we don't judge,
and settle in for a quick value-packed episode of Marketing Tips.
Welcome back to the Duo On Air podcast. This is episode number 172, and we hear this all the time. I am giving away too much for free. Whether it's the blog posts you're writing, the webinars you're making, Instagram carousels, or what you're sharing on your email list, there is this constant fear that if you give away too much, people won't actually pay you for your services. And we've been there.
We've felt this. There's been plenty of times where I've looked at Abby and I'm like, wait, are we giving, is this too much? Are we giving away too much free stuff? And sometimes it really does feel like it, but we're going to dive into why that might not actually be the case.
Yeah. And honestly, why the opposite is probably true. So we're going to talk about why this fear shows up in the first place, how we can reframe it, how to know when it's time to actually protect your energy or draw those boundaries, because sharing content for free is hard work and it takes a lot of your time, a lot of your energy, a lot of your brain cells, and sometimes you do need to protect your energy. So we are going to talk about all of this, and we kind of wanted to start with why is this fear sneaking up on you? And it's this fear that you're going to be taken advantage of, that people are just going to take everything that you share and they're never going to give back, or they're never going to buy from you or invest in you.
Which you're going to have some of that. You're going to have some of that, but that's probably the audience that you don't really want, right? Not audience, but
it was never your ideal client.
It was never your ideal client. Or maybe later they'll come when they can actually start to afford to invest in their business. But you're gonna have some people that come, take it all, leave, and never come back, and that's fine.
Yeah.
We're gonna talk about the people that actually stick around and stay, and the importance and the value of that. So don't think that you're gonna see that, but again, probably not your ideal client. Yes, absolutely.
There's always someone.
Yes.
And it's also that feeling that you're undervalued, or people are going to undervalue what you have to say. They'll just DIY, they'll ghost you, and seeing other people kind of gatekeep this information and not share as much free stuff as you're sharing can make you wonder if you're doing the same. And I cannot tell you the number of times that people say, wow, you guys share so much content. And that little voice in the back of our brain is always like, do we do too much?
Yeah, we've literally asked ourselves that plenty of times.
All the time. So we need to reframe this, because the fear of this question is usually coming from scarcity or burnout, and it's not actually coming from strategy. And I know that this is true in our own world, because we do share a lot of content, but for the most part, we actually love it. We love to send tips and sips. I love doing the SEO squeeze. We love creating this podcast. They're truly content elements of our business that we love, and that's how it should feel. It shouldn't feel like have to, or you don't have a choice. And if you are starting to feel that way from the content you're creating, it's likely because of this burnout fear, or this fear that there's not enough people out there that are going to pay you for what you have, which is absolutely not true.
So what does this free value actually do? I think that's where a lot of people are like, am I getting value from this? Am I giving too much away for free? And there's three things that we kind of want to touch on. And that first one is that builds trust, and it really positions you as that expert. Just like Abby said a second ago, we've had so many people reply to us in our emails, hit us up in our DMs on Instagram, comment about our podcast, say that they listen to episodes X, Y, and Z, or they listen every week, or whatever it might be. And we've had so many people say, your guys' content is so great and so valuable. Thank you so so much. And that, at the end of the day, reassures us that we are giving away just enough free stuff to keep people wanting to come back, to keep people relying on us because we are positioning ourselves as that expert. And these people have actually turned into clients in the future too. Not all of them, but some of them have. And it's also, this isn't a part of our notes here, but it makes us feel good. Like it really does fill our cup, and like we're happy to be helping people on their business journey wherever we can. We've got people who are just starting. We've got people who are brainstorming. We've got people who are 5, 10 years, 15, 20 years in their business. It doesn't really matter where you are. We're hitting all of those, and we're really bringing that value as the expert. And it feels so good to know that we're actually helping businesses out there grow, even from a free resource perspective.
And we have this question on our inquiry forms that says, where you found us. And the number of people that say, oh gosh, I can't remember anymore because I've been on your email list for years, or I've been listening to your podcast for months. And it's like that building trust factor. A lot of people aren't going, especially if you have a higher value service or a higher value offer, they aren't going to just straight up buy blindly without knowing who you are. And this free value is going to build that trust. Like you absolutely need that.
Yes, yes. The second thing that adds value is it really creates that brand awareness. Hello, keywords. And it nurtures your audience before they're even ready to buy. So they've been on our journey. They've been with us. They really get to know us and our brand, who we are, how we work, the vibe that we're going to bring if you end up wanting to work with us. And I think creating that brand awareness, again, it goes back to that trustworthiness. They start to trust our brand and trust us, trust what we do, what we're educating on. And, later down the road, if they want to work with us, they know, based on all of this free stuff or all of this content that we're putting out there, they know what to expect. They know our brand, our vibe, our voice. They know Abby and I, which is the point because we are the brand. And it really does create that strong brand awareness from a personality standpoint, from an emotional standpoint, not just our colors and our logo and that we're fun, but they really understand us as a brand, who we are and what they can expect.
And there's different ways to give free value too. I think that's something where it's not always a PDF resource or it's not always an email. Like it can be a podcast. It can be you showing up on Instagram stories with a series. It's creating content on Instagram. It's creating content on Pinterest.
It could be a quiz.
Yeah. If you think about the things that you are creating, it could be so many different things. And so you have to figure out what free value means to you and what is actually filling your cup rather than draining you. Because if a podcast is not your thing, you don't like talking, then don't start that free value piece of it. You should start somewhere else, like an email list or writing blog content. And there's just so many different ways that you can share free value. It's just getting started and not feeling scared of sharing too much.
And I think that's where Abby and I'm going to toot our horns right now, but I think that's where we do a really good job of sharing free content across all of our platforms. We share free content on our website, in our emails, on this podcast, on social. So it's like we really sprinkle it everywhere. We don't hone in on one spot, which I'm not saying that that's wrong, but we capture different people in different places. So we make sure to, again, repurpose that free content and really put it in all of our channels so that everybody that we're talking to can take that free content and run with it. So I think we do a really good job of kind of spreading it out versus really honing in on one. Now, you might hone in on one, and that's totally fine. It's just, again, finding that sweet spot or what feels comfortable for you.
And I can't tell you how wonderful it is when someone emails you with a question, pops into your DMs and Instagram, or comments on a different blog or something with a question that you have already answered in another piece of free content that you can easily be like, tune into this podcast. It's absolutely going to answer your question, or go check out this blog, or hey, I've got a free email resource for that. Go check this out. The amount of times we can reference free content that we have actually makes our job easier because we already did the work and now we can just share it with the people that are asking the questions.
Yes.
So this is a really big thing to remember, is that you are not giving it all away for free. So there's a big difference between what to do and how to do it. So your free content is going to tell people what they need to know, but your paid offer is going to tell them how to do it with proper guidance, structure, and support. you're not doing both when you're creating free content. You're explaining what you need to do from a strategic level because that's like the role that you're playing, but then you're not going to give them the step-by-step of here's exactly how to do it with my process broken down to a T. And if you are, then maybe it's time to convert that into some kind of paid offer. Regardless of like the cost, like even it can be like a smaller freebie or a smaller resource too. But remember that your free content is going to be telling people what to do, not how to do it typically.
And I think too, remembering that, again, you're the expert, right? So they're not going to be able to follow through it and do it at the level that you'll be able to do it. But when we're thinking from like SEO might be a thing that Abby could send out something on how she does it, like very to a T, right? And now you might not have all of these tools. You can certainly invest in them. But when it comes to something like branding, that takes a specific person, that takes a specific touch and skill, and not everybody can do that, right? So obviously you can give things away for how to teach somebody maybe how to DIY their brand because they can't invest or afford your services at the time. But knowing that if that's where they have to start later on, you can continue to give them free content on why a rebrand or why, investing in branding might make sense at X point in their business or whatever. And then showing them those things on like how a DIY logo can turn into a branded logo when you work with a professional. So I think it's thinking about things like that too, is that some things people, they can't do what you can do. So giving away some of that free content is okay because eventually when they can afford your service, they're going to come to you because they literally don't have a creative bone in their body. Again, going back to it like a brand example, but just kind of keeping that in mind too. I think sometimes it's been hard for me in the past to like say it's okay to DIY your brand because that's not what I want anybody to do if they don't have like the creative bone in their body. But I know that's where people need to start sometimes. So it's like we educate on that too when we give free content on that. But ultimately, like down the line, we'd really love to like have them come to us because we're the experts within that field.
Yeah, for sure. And I think like Court said, everyone has to start somewhere.
Yes.
So you just getting started is the hardest thing. And we never want to discourage people from like just being able to get started. And a lot of times what we can do from the brand perspective is help them with strategy. Like here's how you can DIY a lot of your foundational strategy stuff that gets forgotten. Everyone thinks of the logo. Like, yep, let's create a logo. But no one actually thinks about like, why am I doing this business? How do I clearly explain it in a single sentence? Who's my audience? Like, who is my competition and what are they doing? Like, no one really thinks through all of those details sometimes at the very beginning. And I shouldn't say no one, that's not a blanket statement, but a lot of times we forget about that.
And I mean, we're kind of an example of this, right? I feel like we could have when we first started Duo 5-ish, 6-ish years ago, like we could have definitely sat down and came up with a stronger strategic plan. But we were so excited. We were like, what is it going to look like? What is it going to sound like?
Jump in and get to work.
And that's kind of just what we did. And it was just this last October, right? Or 2 Octobers, last October, where we actually sat down for the first time ever and really built out our brand strategy, which sounds so ridiculous because
we had it before, but it wasn't. And sometimes you need to have a few years under your belt in business to know strongly what it is that you want to do and what you want to offer.
Yes.
But it was too vague. Yeah. It wasn't specific enough to where we've been and how we're growing and where we want to go.
Yes, exactly. Okay, that was a small tangent, but
I know. So I think it's really important to remember too that people need to hear something way more than one time before they are going to trust themselves to actually take a next step and buy. So it's not enough just to know that, for example, we offer SEO branding and building websites. Like, that's not enough. There's a whole bunch of people out there that do that same thing. So how are you going to know that we are going to be a good fit? You need to know how we think, how we build things, how our brains work, how we vibe, how our personalities fit. And we're not trying to be everything for everyone. We're trying to match up with the people who also love our vibe and love who we are and how our brains work. And you get that through our free content. And that's the kind of thing that gets you to say, yes, I want to work with them.
Exactly. So the next thing we're going to talk about is protecting your energy without hoarding all of that info. So a few examples here, like creating boundaries, for example. So maybe it's something like you want to create blog posts that have free content in it that excites you, or that's something that's easy for you to do. But then if there's something like custom advice in DMs, maybe that's not your thing. So you want to make sure that you're setting these boundaries based on how you're sharing this free content and how you want people to engage with it, how you want to respond to it. You know, when we send out newsletters and have free content in it, we have to expect that people are going to reply, and we have to reply back to them. So if that was something where we were like, we don't have time to reply to our newsletter emails, or like that doesn't sound like something we want to do because we have to protect our energy, we would have to some way make sure that that was something that we had set, right? Or like that's where we don't give away free information or something. So really,
or you hire a VA to help you
exactly
manage that workload too. So that can be something too. But you're not required, especially as a service provider. I think it's really hard to get yourself not to answer every question that comes to you in all of the different ways. Because we put so much pressure on ourselves of like, we're falling behind on our DMs. I can't get to everyone. I can't tell you the number of times I go on Instagram, even just like personal influencers and things that I follow, and people being like, I'm so behind on my DMs. I can't like respond to everyone. I'm so sorry. And that's good. We shouldn't apologize for that. We need to like protect our own boundaries and protect our peace. And we can't just sit there on our phone responding to people all day long. So it's remembering that if you are going to be responsive, which you should be, like you should be responsive and engaging with your audience, just set a time limit. Like make sure you're like, I'm going to do this for 20 minutes and then I'm going to move on. And I'm going to make it clear to my audience that I'm also doing that. Like I'm going to post something on Instagram saying, hey, I'm answering DMs for 20 minutes and then I got to pop off. And like, I'm sorry, I will try to get to everyone, but it is what it is.
Again, so, protecting your energy and your time. Yeah. And just being, honest about it. Another thing is just offering free, in-structured, intentional formats. So think of things like a quiz on your website or a lead magnet or SEO-rich content. So this stuff is stuff that you put out there, and it's great as a free content piece, but it's something that you don't have to respond to or you don't have to follow constantly. You get it set up, you get it in your system, and then it works itself. So you're offering these free lead magnets or whatever it might be on your website, and once it's there, it's there. Obviously, you're going to want to do some marketing around it, do social posts, maybe an email blast, kind of talking about it and getting it out there so your audience can see it. But once they find it and they go to it and they do it, they get that freebie, they're on your newsletter, and there you have it. Like it's that easy. So once you have to do a little work up front, but once you have that done and your system's in place, it kind of works for you, again, as long as you're putting some marketing efforts towards it.
And then you can share it again and again and again.
And it can live out there forever. Yeah, you don't have to take it down. So that's the great thing about it. And then your free stuff should guide people toward the transformation. So not just give them the full process step by step. Again, it's a thing that you give them. You really try to get them to that next thing, transform them into the next piece that you want them to go to. So, again, we have a freebie. I don't even know what it's called, the DIY brand freebie or something. And towards the end of it, it has some sort of call to action, right? Like, did you DIY your brand? Are you looking for a rebrand now? Do you need help with your strategy? Maybe your visuals are, in a place where you feel fine, but you need help with that brand strategy. So it's really guiding them through a transformational phase versus just, giving them a step-by-step thing and then it's done. You really want to guide them to that next step within a service that you can offer them. So hopefully eventually you convert them.
And another good example of that too, if you look at our business, is that SEO on Tap is the step-by-step guide, but that is not free. That is a charged offer. So we have webinars that walk people through like when you see red flags in your SEO and maybe some like short little tips on like what you should look out for, but it's not necessarily giving you the exact step-by-step guide on how to do it. That's what SEO on Tap does. SEO on Tap is the thing that guides you step-by-step, side-by-side with us, and gives you that full access to us to ask questions and all of that. that's a paid offer.
The webinar is like kind of a sneak peek into just like a tiny portion of what SEO on Tap really is.
Yeah. And that's how your free content should be. And a good place to start if you're thinking of like, okay, maybe you're worried. I think this episode is for two kinds of people. People who are too worried they're giving away too much so that you can feel better about yourself and that you're likely not giving away too much unless you are feeling overwhelmed with, and we'll talk about this in a second when you feel like you've crossed the line. But it's also for people who feel like they need to add some free stuff and they're not really sure where to start. And I think you start with the questions you get asked most. You start with the biggest pain point that your audience is experiencing right now. What are they struggling with? And how can you give them some guidance to making that first step towards whatever transformation it is that you have to offer?
And if you don't know, ask. Ask your audience. Take a poll, ask on stories.
Yes, asking people what their biggest pain point is and then taking those words and using them in your copy on your website is one of the most powerful things you can do, especially as non-copywriters. Actually putting things in the words of your audience is just how you make that connection click. So let's talk a little bit about when you know that you might have crossed the line, because this happens.
Yes.
And this happens to us too. And I can't tell it, like, there are times where we're like, let's skip a podcast this week. Like, we just can't do it. It's a holiday. We're busy. We're with our family. Like,
and sometimes I feel so like, I don't know if it's like business guilt or whatever, but we've got a few friends out in the internet world and they're like, I've never missed a newsletter or I've never missed a podcast for X days straight. And I'm like, damn it. Like, that is not us. We can't say that. But you know what? I think it's okay. Like, it's okay for us to not be like perfectly polished like that. Like, this is Abby and I's business. This is behind the scenes is chaos. And
I don't want to glorify perfection.
Right. And I think when like Abby pinged me a couple weeks ago and she's like, we don't have a podcast or something like that. And I'm like, we take the day off. I think it was Memorial Day. I'm like, we take the day off. This is our business. We have the right to do that. Our audience isn't going to be like, oh my gosh, did you know that Duo didn't do a podcast that one Monday? Yeah. Right. So I think like you don't have to put so much pressure on yourself when it comes to stuff like that.
And our ideal audience, if we told them the situation of like, you know what, we just took the day off and we played in our garden, we played with our kids and we did what we needed to do that day, they'd probably be like, good for you.
Exactly.
That's our ideal audience.
Yes.
And that's like, if you think of that too, as you're creating content and protecting your peace and all of that, if you think about what your ideal audience would say to you if you were like, you know, feeling like you're slacking on your business or letting people down, that can help you be like, no, this is okay. Like, I can do this. And if your ideal audience wouldn't say that, then maybe you should find a new ideal audience. Question mark? I don't know. So anyways, first, you're going to feel resentful when people take your free info and don't convert. So if you create a free piece of content, so say, and we've done this before, I'm not going to lie. Yeah. So, and actually, here's an example. Ooh. We created a quiz a long time ago when we used to offer social strategy and we used to do social content. We had a quiz, how strong is your gram? And it was all related to coffee.
Yes. And
it was so cute. I love that quiz.
It was adorable.
But we just don't offer social anymore, so it doesn't really make sense from a conversion standpoint. At the end, we worked so hard on this quiz. We had a copywriter write it for us. We built it out. We created custom landing pages in Flowdesk. We had custom answers and then unique offers for each solution.
Yeah, each solution. Yep.
So you could get dropped into A, B, or C. And for each one, we had a unique offer. I don't think one person bought that unique offer.
I don't think we converted anything.
And it was frustrating because we spent so much time on this and then we were like, do you want an optimized bio for $50? We'll write it for you. And nothing ever converted.
Nothing. And they were low ticket. They were low ticket offers.
They were low ticket. And so it felt really frustrating because we did have great conversions on that. And a lot of times people came into our email like through that and then we could build their trust. And it was one of those things where we were resentful, and that's not the point. Like, you shouldn't expect free content to convert. You should expect free content to grow your brand awareness and get people in your world. But this is like meeting someone for the very first time and expecting to like marry them, or like,
Exactly.
you know, it just doesn't make sense.
Love is blind.
Yeah.
It's
love
not
is
real.
blind. I know. It's not real. So if you're feeling that way, it's likely you've crossed the line. You work too hard on that free content, or
Yeah.
your expectations are just out of whack.
I would say more expectations maybe out of whack, because free content's not always easy to build, and it does take time, but it's not going to be your main driver. And you might convert some, but you can't expect it to convert all of your clients. It's never going to be 100%.
Yeah.
Not even close.
Right. And then another thing is you're going to feel burnt out from being overly accessible. And I think we see this most when people, like specifically with Instagram and people responding to DMs.
Yes.
And sharing too much. Like I definitely do this sometimes where I'm like, and this is why I've turned to like voice messages, because it's just so much quicker than typing out a response. Is I'll quickly send a voice message back to people. But the expectation of having to show up in your DMs all the time, and especially as you grow and as you get bigger audiences and bigger followings, it's going to be harder to keep up. So you got to figure out new processes. And this is where I think something like an automated response isn't a bad thing.
Yeah.
So sometimes people have these automated responses that pop up constantly on any DM that someone sends. So if you can clearly have it say, like, if you're inquiring, please go here. If you have a question about this, I will try to get to it, but here's what you should know. Like,
again, protecting your peace.
Yes, again, protecting it. So those automated messages sometimes can be annoying, but at other times it's like, it's a really good way to continue to build that relationship with your audience and giving them a place to go where they can actually like access you.
And let's say you
protective.
don't want to do the automated thing right away because you do want to build a connection or whatever. But if they continue to ask questions and pry, because sometimes that happens too, like they ask one question, you give an answer, they ask another, you give an answer, they kind of,
and all of a sudden you do a strategy session on
Instagram. They almost
start
to take advantage of you. And at some point you just need to realize, okay, well, it sounds like maybe you would benefit from a strategy session, just like Abby said, or like, if you want to learn more, contact me here. It's okay to kind of put an end to that too. If somebody feels like
I feel like Court's talking to me right now.
Well, I mean, kind of. Yeah, because sometimes, again, Abby maybe gives away too much. And I'm just like, hey, Abby, like, you've already put a couple hours into this now.
This person's still DMing us, Abby.
Are we billing them? Like, what's happening here?
It is hard, but there is a nice way to say it. Like, there's a nice way to be like, hey,
absolutely.
You know what? I could give you such better answers, and we could dive in so much deeper if we had a strategy call to talk about this.
Book one here.
Yeah, and so things like that, I think are beyond important. And then the other thing is, if we're still talking about if we've crossed the line. So I think we've all kind of had these feelings, and it's just figuring out like what is going on here and how to fix it. But another one is you might be delaying creating an actual offer because you're feeling like people already know it. So you're taking everything that you create and you're making it all free. Not everything has to be free. You can have low ticket offers. You can have paid webinars. You can charge for things, and you just have to decide, am I telling them what to do or am I showing them how? And that's how you should decide between, should this be free or should this be a paid offer? And then back into there from a price point.
So I think one of the biggest things to remember with all of this is that if people got results from your free stuff, they're going to wonder what else that they could unlock by working with you. So that's the beauty in sharing these free resources, is that you send them a free resource, they sign up for something, whatever it might be, they do a quiz, they see an email, and they're so excited by that free content, and they've actually learned something, or they've grown in their business, they've implemented it, whatever it might be, and then they realize, I need more, or I want more, and they want to unlock with you what more that they can do. And again, that's the magic of these freebies and the free content. And that's where you're going to start to eventually convert. Again, Abby and I aren't saying you're going to convert from a lead magnet overnight. You're not going to get a ton of leads and people are going to become clients. It takes time. Like, this is a very nurturing process of providing that free content. And again, going back to building trust, creating that brand awareness, being the expert. So it's not like these free things are going to make you money overnight, but eventually people are going to keep following you, keep trusting you, and eventually might convert. And that's the beauty in it.
Yeah. And I really, just a couple weeks ago, I'd say, we had a live Q&A call for our SEO on Tap students. And this is exactly what someone said on the call, is they were like, wow, if they share this much for free, I wonder how good their paid content is. And that's why I bought the course. I was like, yes, thank you. Like, that is the most reassuring thing about your free content, is that if people are wowed by it, then they know that the energy you're going to put into your paid offers is going to pay off. And I think that mindset it's important to have, because if you are just giving away free all the time and you don't have a paid offer at the end of it, you need to maybe start with the paid offer and then back into the free.
Exactly.
Because that's how you're not going to get burnt out. So if you're ever feeling like you're giving away too much for free, we want you to remember this. You're not giving too much. You're giving just enough to build trust, and the right people are always going to want more. And the wrong people might run away, and that's a-okay. And that is where those people who want more, that's where your offer is going to come in. So don't forget that after you create your free content, you need to have that offer at the end of it.
If you liked this episode, please be sure to share it with a friend and subscribe so you don't miss any new episodes dropping every Monday. Plus, if you haven't already, please leave us a review and don't hesitate to share any new episode ideas. We love hearing from you and creating this content for you. See you next week.